always played music, especially over the last decade where I've been doing this particularly intense work. It's been a really important outlet for me.
Because I play by ear, I'd come over here and I'd probably play it a little different.
And then my husband, he made this for the boy that we're making. So this will go with her, the boy that goes with her.
She just loves and dancing and has a joy when she does it.
Tanse, and welcome to the third episode of MéTV. We started this show with the aim of highlighting Métis culture and achievements. We also wanted to discuss issues currently faced by the Métis people of British Columbia. Citizens make up a nation, and keeping that in mind, today's show will feature some really talented individuals whose Métis identity is at the heart of their art, music, and spirituality. But to start off this month's show, Sophie and I want to share with you highlights of what's happening at Métis Nation, BC.
The last month has seen a lot of national news headlines in the Indigenous community across the country, including the discovery of mass graves on the grounds of an old Kamloops residential school.
Métis across the country felt this deeply. Many Métis were forced to attend residential schools, and the repercussions of this are still being felt today. Dean Gladue, MNBC's Minister and Director of the Thompson-Okanagan region, issued a statement acknowledging the impact such a discovery has on the families and relations of all children lost to such a shameful part of Canada's history.
On June 3rd, the Government of Canada released their Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Action Plan to tackle the high degree of violence experienced by Indigenous women and girls.
Citizens of MNBC were consulted through working groups that led to the development of this plan. The action plan was originally scheduled for release last year, but was delayed because of COVID-19. MNBC's full reaction to the action plan can be found on our website. MNBC can add a new award to our collection thanks to the hard work of our Métis Family Connections team. The program won the Government of BC's Child Care Award of Excellence for Partnerships. The award honors the outstanding achievements of individuals, organizations, and local governments who deliver exceptional early care and learning services.
From beading patterns to colorful landscape paintings, Métis people are known for their distinctive art. Those distinctive motifs and more will soon be a much bigger part of the nation, with a number of recent projects coming out of the Ministry of Culture, Heritage, and Language.
MNBC is currently looking for portfolio submissions by BC Métis artists for a rotating art exhibit at the new offices and a new branding initiative. The ministry is also creating a new advisory council to provide guidance to help support our artists and knowledge keepers of all kinds.
You can keep up with the Ministry of Culture, Heritage, and Language by signing up for their Artist and Knowledge Keeper database.
Do you have questions for the MNBC's Cabinet? Well, you'll get the chance to ask them at MNBC's Cabinet Town Hall Forum on June 30th. It will feature addresses from MNBC's Cabinet members and a live questions and answer period.
That's it for News of the Nation this month. As always, you can stay up to date with what's happening at MNBC through following our social media channels.
Thank you, Sophie. You recently visited Vancouver Island to film some features, and one of them was MéRY MORAN, the Métis musician and academic. Tell us a little bit more about that, Sophie.
Yeah, that's right, Daniel. So I was on Vancouver Island visiting MéRY, and he actually created the music for our show. But he's not only an accomplished musician, he's also a very interesting academic and has done some wonderful things in the area of archives and history and recording of those histories in the Indigenous and Métis communities.
Thanks, Sophie. Now let's meet MéRY MORAN.
I'd love to know a little bit about your heritage. Did you always know that you were Métis?
You know, I've really reflected on the question of did we or did we not know, because the story was always present. The histories were whispered, but they weren't really actively talked about. And so it was sort of a gradual process of comfort making, I think, within our family as we began to be a little bit more honest with ourselves. And I would say, for me, having lived the last 10 years right back in Red River, that was a hugely important part of my journey as a Métis person. It really helped me close the circle on some really important missing pieces, I think, in our family's history.
So how did you first get into music?
Well, as my mom tells the story, brought me home from the hospital, and then the first trip that I went on out of the house as a baby was to buy an organ. So I guess, I don't know, I just have always done music, I've always played music. It's really, I think, especially over the last decade, where I've been doing this particularly intense work, it's been a really important outlet for me.
And it's not just a hobby. You actually have produced a couple of albums.
Music's a pretty serious occupation of mine, I'd say. You know, I worked on some shows and produced a few albums. Yeah, it's very serious, and I've had this sort of long-standing internal debate about, you know, what path to take, and I've sort of drifted at times, you know, very much into the pursuit of a professional career in music.
How did you first get into the field of Indigenous reconciliation?
I guess in some ways the work of reconciliation started within myself, really, because I was reconciling my histories, what I knew, what I didn't know. So I was, you know, given the opportunity to work both on some very important oral history projects with First Nations people, Michif language projects with elders like Norman Fleury. And that sort of led me to the front door of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The commission gave me a call and said, you know, are you interested in doing some of this work? And I, quite honestly, I was not looking for a job. And quite honestly, I was also not the first choice of the candidate, but there I was. And, you know, here we are, 11 years later, reflecting on a very, very difficult week, honestly. I mean, this past week, we've seen the discovery of, you know, the graves of children at a residential school in Kamloops. And, you know, that is, that's hitting very, very close to home, because that has been a central and core part of the work that I've been doing over the last decade plus now, is to document and create a record of evidence that helps those families answer some of the questions they need answers and deserve answers to.
Whoa.
Even right now, we've been able to light a sacred fire for 4 days. That might be the first time that's happened on campus, and we've also lit the building orange in memory of all of those children that never returned home.
You mentioned the Kamloops Residential School. What do you think is the next step in archival and documentation?
Well, I think really fundamentally, if nothing else, this moment is telling us very clearly that we have to protect evidence, and we have to protect the evidence of what happened, potentially even of a criminal nature. We have to take the protection of the evidence very seriously. But in general, what has to happen is that the voices and experiences of Indigenous peoples need to be heard and need to be valued and need to be taken seriously. Indigenous peoples have been telling the truth of what's been going on in this country for a really long period of time. There was no shock in some ways that we found what we found at Kamloops as a society, because we've heard those stories for a very long period of time. The truth was being told. The disbelief was that those truths were not being valued or cherished or taken seriously. So we have a lot of work to do still moving forward in regards to both continuing to protect a record of truth and working on the disbelief of Canadians about what needs to change to prevent things like this from happening again in the future.
What a great story, and what a great individual who's working so hard to capture our history, our academic record of our Indigenous peoples. It's wonderful. We're taking a short break, and when we come back, Lisa Shepherd meets Keith Hill for the newest installment of Kete Ayak.
Because I play by ear, I'd come over here and I'd probably play it a little different.
Welcome back. The fiddle and jig are integral aspects of Métis culture. This episode's Katea Yak is a fiddle player who has honed his craft over the years. Here to talk about him is Lisa Shepherd. Lisa, tell us a little bit more about Keith.
Keith, I feel Keith speaks Michif, but not the language. He speaks Michif through his music, through the fiddle music. So right across BC and into the prairies, they're the same fiddle tunes that were heard there in the Red River at the very beginning. But as you move across the prairies, the dialect changes a little bit. And so depending on where you are, there's a different tempo that the tunes are played in.
Let's go over and see a little bit more and learn more about Keith.
Great.
Here we go.
Keith, I'm wondering if you would be open to talking to us, having some conversation, just sharing some of your knowledge about the music that you play. And
I'd be happy to,
wonderful.
to do that.
So I've got this offering of tobacco for you. Thank you.
Thank you. My grandfather, both the Irish and the Scotch grandfather, was a fiddle player, and my dad was a musician as well, as my brothers.
What instruments were played?
Mainly the fiddle,
Mainly the fiddle?
yes.
Doot, doot.
Always have to have the Don Messer ending in there.
So did you know you were Métis when you were growing up?
Not at all.
No.
No, it was never really talked about in our family. There was always that feeling that everybody knew, but nobody wanted to talk about it. And going back to around 2006, 2008, that I went and looked up my heritage and became a member of MNBC.
Keith, what is it that makes Métis fiddle music Métis music? Like, what makes it so distinct?
Well, basic difference is that with the Métis, nothing was really written in music. It was all by ear back in the days, and I don't read any music. I don't know music. Everything that I've learned, I picked up by ear. Tunes have been changed just because there's either a beat maybe dropped or an extra beat added. From what I have been told, there's 4 beats to a measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
With Métis music, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of the music, you could ride a horse to.
Yes,
as
there's
you
that
know.
connection to the horse step. That's right.
That's right.
This fiddle music language connects us
Yes.
across space.
Yes.
What about across time? Is it the same? Are they the same songs that were being played, say, 300 years ago?
They're the same songs, the same basic melodies, but as I mentioned before, with added bars, dropped bars, and everybody, and because I play by ear, I probably would play the Red River Jig for you over there. I'd come over here and play it. I'd probably play it a little different, not just note for note. It's how you feel it.
I feel like the music, it connects us, doesn't it, across?
Yes, very much.
So the music, the Métis fiddle music that we hear in the prairies, like let's go all the way to Manitoba,
Right.
are they the same tunes that are being played here?
Some of the tunes are played maybe a little faster. Some are played, you know,
Okay.
and with tempos.
How are we going to keep the music alive for the next 7 generations?
That's a good question. I think as a people I know in Saskatchewan, and I go back to John Arcand has a camp every summer, and there are many people have gone through that through the camp and been involved with it.
You've been all over the place playing fiddle for the nation.
Yes, I have been very grateful for it.
Our nation's really grateful to you. You know, you really are keeping the culture alive. in sharing the music the way that you do. And so I made this for you, Keith.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead
very
and
much.
untie it.
Wow.
What do you think it is?
I know what it is. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much. It's a guitar strap. Look at that. Beautiful. Oh my goodness.
And one more little thing, this is for Caroline,
Oh,
because she's so supportive and she's
Thank
always there in the background supporting you, and
Well-
so I really want to honor her as well.
thank you very much. You'll be very
So that's
Very
some
happy.
homemade
Thank you.
lavender Castile soap.
nice.
Yeah. So the song that every Métis gets up and dances to, what fills the dance floor?
The Red River Jig.
The Red
is
River
one
Jig?
that-
Well, give us
yeah.
some of
Well,
that.
all right.
Yeah.
Are you going to get up and dance?
Well, I think I have to.
I just want to let everyone know that Lisa is not only an accomplished Métis artist, but she is also accomplished in the unique Métis art of jigging. Lisa, tell us about your jigging journey.
Yeah, so I actually grew up not jigging, I grew up as a tap dancer. And it wasn't until, only about 15 years ago that I met Maddie McCallum, who I'm sure that you've met, and Yvonne Chartrand. And Maddie got me into jigging, and she kind of sneaked me in there. It was actually, there's a funny story to go along with that, but she encouraged me to come out and to dance with her. And boy, I had so much fun doing that and learning not just how to jig, but how it's connected to our stories and how it's connected to the land.
Explain a little bit more about how it is connected to our culture and to our language.
Yeah, so when you hear the jig step, the old traditional jig step, you hear that horse step, that
Yes.
sounds like a horse in a canter. And when you think about our culture and you think about things like the great buffalo hunts, our horses had to be so well trained. And that horse sound comes through in the dancing. We actually used to train up our horses by putting a Métis fiddle player in the plains, and the horses would ride around while the fiddle player played the tune. And the horses were listening for the music and listening for the change in the music. And actually that's where the RCMP got the idea for the musical ride.
I know I won't be able to jig anywhere near as good as you can, but I'd love for you to maybe teach me a few of those moves.
That would be fun.
We're taking a short break now, and when we come back, we'll meet Louis de JAEGER, Minister of Economic Development and Region 2 Director of Métis Nation BC. As we go to break, here is an alternate way of saying elder in Michif. Welcome back to MéTV. Our next guest is multi-talented. From running a restaurant in Chilliwack to pioneering the Stolo Business Association, Canada's first independent Indigenous business association, Louis de JAEGER is a proud Métis and brings extensive experience in small business and connecting communities. Louis, welcome to MéTV.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here. Bonjour, Tansé.
Now, you're the Minister of Economic Development, so you're responsible. You from our viewers will have heard from the introduction, you ran a restaurant, a very successful restaurant, so you were an entrepreneur. You also were involved with the Stolo Business Association. What's driving your interest in that entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, I think it's like your culture. It's always inside of you, right? And ready to be awakened. And my hero was always my mom, and she had her own commissary with Pacific Western Airlines, and then I think it became Canadian Airlines. And my mom could make something out of nothing. So, you kind of learn that, and you learn where the gaps are, and, where to make, more profit. And she was just very good at business. So, and it just caught on.
Now, running a restaurant is no easy feat. I know it's a challenge. So being an entrepreneur and being in the restaurant business is really a challenge. But what are some of the other challenges that you see other Métis business owners facing in the province of British Columbia? Is anything that you've identified as minister?
Yeah, well, I think even before that, it was, just getting your finances together and just not having that support. And I really believe that that's a role, it's a political role for MNBC, is to make that environment happen and to help develop that ecosystem that's there ready to train, because it's not just having the great ideas. You could be the best artist in the world, but it's the business of doing that business, and it's trying to get your name out. It's branding, all of those things do play a really crucial role. But I think the biggest part is developing the relationships and making those work, and trying to find areas that that people aren't in. So, if everyone's, chopping wood, then you open the company that delivers the wood to the people. So it's training people to have that eye and to be a successful business in, being an entrepreneur or opening up their own business.
Now, as minister with that portfolio, I know you're very passionate about supporting Métis businesses in British Columbia. What are some of the things, if you take a minute or so, just to explain to our viewers that your government's doing to help support Métis business operators in the province?
Well, right now there's nowhere to go but up. So we are focusing with staff. Paul Pasco is just amazing. He's a great person to work with. He has that drive and that passion, and he can see sort of see what needs to be done and where we need to go in order to enable to and to set that stage for our entrepreneurs to shine. Where do we need to go in order to train our entrepreneurs how to do business, how to read balance sheets, how to make money work, when not to expand, when to expand, or when to pivot. So during COVID, we've really seen a lot of businesses pivot and open up other things, and now we're working on trying to join all of our businesses together. We have about 365 businesses registered on our directory, and we want to try to turn that into an association, almost like a Métis Chamber of Commerce, where there's member-to-member benefits, and we're actually promoting each other's. But we want to make sure that they know other people are around, so that we can help each other, and we can, just if we're going to feature one, let's feature 3 or 4, right? So that prosperity we're sharing. And we're all helping each other advance in this growing economy.
Now, Minister, I know you have also been a strong advocate of Métis traditional wear, and you've encouraged me to venture out and to try to obtain and to get some Métis clothing. Tell us a little bit about, in our remaining moments we have, a little bit more about what you're wearing. And I thought I would also share with you before that is, as I've got this beautiful tie, which I will be wearing on an upcoming episode of MéTV that Lisa Shepard gave to me. It's beautiful. It's art. It really is. It's not a tie. It's art. But tell us a little bit more about why you're so passionate about that.
Yeah, as being out there, right? And as a gay man, to it's important to be honest and to be out there and just shine. So Métis culture has a lot of really colorful things. We're always colorful people. I'm wearing Lisa as well, and that's my hat. And Lynn K. Peters designed this shirt. I have 3 other shirts, and I have another one that she's designing right now as well. So I just think it's important that we're visible, because that's one of the challenges that we're facing right now, as far as our kids and family and getting the provincial government to recognize us, is that they really don't know we're here. And people are like going, well, who are you? When we put on these clothes, we're wearing our culture. And I think that's important to explain and to be out there and be proud, right? Be proud of our artists. I
Oh,
do have a gift for you,
wonderful.
and this is actually the first piece that that I ever got, and it's from Lisa again, and it's a little brooch. So when you're wearing your business clothes, it goes right on. So I am proud because we don't really own our culture, we share our culture, and I would be honored if I could share that with you.
Thank you so much for that, Minister. I'm going to be proudly wearing this. I know we'll be attending a lot more events this fall and into next year, so this will be proudly worn on my jacket, and means a lot for me to have received that, so thank you so much. When we come back, Sophie meets Métis knowledge keeper from the Métis Nation of Greater Victoria, Joanna Young.
And then my husband, he made this for the boy that we're making. So this will go with her, the boy that goes with her.
Welcome back. Sharing traditional knowledge is crucial to bridging the past and the present. Sophie takes us back to Vancouver Island now to the city of Souk to meet Métis seamstress and knowledge keeper Joanna Young, who is playing an instrumental role in passing on traditional knowledge to the local school children.
For this segment, we're in Souk, BC, to meet a woman who's a creator of all things Métis, which she also teaches to local children. This is the house of Joanna.
This is Maxime Lepine, and you'll see he's got a capote on. This is made out of one blanket, and this was the coat that the Métis wore. So these are singing sticks, and they get to play the music with them, right? Teachers hate this. My mother died when she was 51. When I turned 51, I went to the doctor and he said, go home, make out your will, you'll be dead in 5 years. So I thought, oh my, you know, so many times I've went, I should have asked Mom, I should have asked Mom. So I thought I should make a family tree. So I was in St. Francis Xavier, where you can get all of this genealogy done, and gave them the information and told me, go home, come back tomorrow and we'll have it done for you. So I was like, bonus. So I went back the next day and they gave me a book, which is, I thought it would just be a piece of paper. And she says, do you not know who you are related to? And I went, no, I don't. She's looking through it and she goes, this is Howard Adams. And it was like a piece of the puzzle just dropped, and I had found what I sort of was missing all the time. So it's called an honor shawl, right? And she's going to have that. And then I'm going to put some fur along here. So she's got 2 strips of ermine.
Wow.
And then my husband, he made this for the boy that we're making.
Oh, he made that?
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? So this will go with her, the boy that goes with her.
I want to talk a little bit about your career as well, because you have a really interesting career. So before you found out that you were Métis, you were a dressmaker, is that correct?
Well, not a dressmaker, no. My mother had jacket and cresting factories. So we would make hockey team jackets, baseball jackets, police jackets, and then all of the uniforms and crests, every kind of crest that you could imagine, before the computer. So where you see all the embroidery crests nowadays, they're done on the computer. We did that all by hand. I worked for an upholstery place, I worked for dressmakers, I subcontracted for the movies to do historical costumes. One of the movies that I did for was The Snow Walker. It's called The Snow Walker. And Barry Pepper stars in that. And I had to make those jackets for Barry Pepper.
In one fleeting moment, everything changed for ace pilot Charlie Halliday.
So how did you get into teaching children about Métis culture?
Well, one of the elders in the Métis Nation of Greater Victoria Board invited me to go in because I like to talk, and she asked me to come into the schools, right? So, and the children are, you know, they're like sponges, but it's also fun to watch the teachers go, I didn't know that, I didn't know that. And a lot of misconception about who the Métis are. A lot of people just think if you have a First Nations and a European ancestor that you're Métis, and I'm a Red River Métis. We are a culture that came from the Red River. Own language, Michif, own customs, own food, everything is brand new. So that's why we're one of the Indigenous people of Canada's, the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit.
When you've got classes that you're showing the children these, what do you use them for?
So this is Maxime Lepine, and he was a very important person in Red River resistance at Batoche. Also, he was actually Louis Riel's most trusted man. He said, I trust him more than the priests. So that was my great-great-grandfather, Maxime. And then this one represents my great-great-grandmother, Josephette. And she was on the battlefield of Batoche. And she would go out and get all of the, any kind of metal you could find and melt it down in the fire to make extra bullets. Because the Métis had to fight with those kind of guns where the Canadians had a Gatling gun and they were firing 300 bullets a minute. Yeah. So we didn't have a chance, but we fought. And my relatives in Saskatchewan, they always say, we're so proud of you because you didn't have to say you were Métis.
Yeah, you did it yourself. You chose to.
I chose to, and I'm so proud to be it.
What an amazing collection of Métis items in that house. It's great to see someone like Joanna passing that knowledge on to the next generation. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, we meet Mark Dalton, proud Métis and Conservative Member of Parliament for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. In the meanwhile, here is the Michif word for Parliament. Welcome back. Métis Nation members can be found in all professions. We are educators, pastors, Army reservists, and community leaders. My next guest, Mark Dalton, has been all of the above. I had the chance to have a conversation with him a few weeks ago from his office in Ottawa. Let's take a look. What do you see as some of the big issues that the Métis Nation is facing from your perspective, from Parliament?
You know, there's different legislation pieces that are going through right now. One is Bill C-15, which is on UNDRIP, and so that's a big issue. There are other issues too that do impact us. For example, even Bill C-10 on freedom of speech. So there's a variety of things that are really important.
So Mark, I did mention to our viewers off the top that you are a citizen of the Métis
Yes.
Nation of British Columbia, full
Yes.
disclosure. And did you know you were a Métis your entire life? Is that something you learned later in life?
Well, I knew that I had Indigenous blood. But it really came, it came later on as far as the awareness of my identity. Part of that had to do with my father. My dad was in the Canadian military. And he was actually his uncles attended a residential. They were day students at residential school in northern Alberta. He actually went to a different residential school in the north of Edmonton. So it was, you know, it wasn't something when he was younger that you necessarily were proud about as far as being Indigenous. There was a lot of, if you want to call it racism or just connotations that he wasn't comfortable with. And so it wasn't actually until he was retired and actually was applying for status, we just started discovering more just as far as our Métis heritage. So it has been a process with my father's generation and my own generation, and something that I'm very proud of to be a Métis, and my children are, and it's something even my extended family, that this is something that is very important to us, our heritage.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch upon a little bit about your role
Yes.
at the provincial level in a moment, because
Yes.
I'd like to explore that and let our viewers know that. But before we do, a Conservative government. So we're in a minority situation. We never know when the current government's going to fall, or we're going to go into an election. What is the Conservative government doing to prepare to work with the Métis Nation and with other Indigenous peoples? Is it something that you're involved with or that you're participating in as you prepare and head to what will inevitably be a federal election in the next, probably the next 12 months?
I think engagement is always important, to have those conversations. I know that I'm a member of BC Caucus. That we have 17 members of parliament in British Columbia, and we met with Métis Nation, the leadership, just I think a couple of weeks ago, and just hearing some of the concerns that our Métis people have nationally, but particularly here in British Columbia. And there's one issue as far as some of the funding allocation, specifically in health. And that was something that I've actually submitted an order, a question on the order papers to get some answers. Like, where is this going to tracking? Because there are 90,000 self-identified Métis in British Columbia. I believe about 24,000 of which are part of Métis Nation BC, and it's growing. Is strong increase in numbers, so that is something that that I'm going forward with, as far as finding out where's this going, because a lot of there's different jurisdictions, so I think that engagement's important.
So Mark, my final question to you is, there's a lot of young Métis people out there who are potentially thinking about getting into politics, and they might look to you and your career path as being an inspiration for them to get into politics. What advice do you have for young Métis people, or any Métis person, in fact, who wants to get into politics, be it at the municipal, provincial, or federal level?
Well, I think that life experience counts. So whatever you're doing in whatever field that you're in, excel at it and grow in it and be connected. I think it's important. Relationships are important. Relationships within the Métis community, relationships outside. Volunteering is really important. And just that networking is important. On a political side of things, then, I think being involved perhaps as a volunteer on a campaign or getting involved in boards, there's never enough people. So I think all those different things, they are important, and we're not just a talking head. We bring our life story into politics, and so the richer your experience, the more we know, the knowledge base, the relationships, that all helps. So I think that there's a training and developing and growing, and one step leads to another. So I encourage people to get involved.
Thank you so much, Mark, for joining me on the show.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
It was so great to speak with Mark Dalton. Never had a chance to meet him before. Obviously very prominent Métis citizen in British Columbia. We will meet more members of the Métis Nation who make a difference, just like Mark, in future shows. Speaking of the future, our next segment will feature a young Métis performer whose talent has taken her all over North America before the age of 13. We'll be right back after a short break.
What stands out to me most about Lilika is just how humble she is, and it really shines through her dancing, so it makes it very sincere.
Welcome back. We are almost out of time, but as we look to the future, I'd like to invite you to meet another member of the Vancouver Island Métis community based out in Nanaimo. That's where Sophie met Lilika Kovacs, a young and very talented Métis ballerina.
All right, we're gonna go in and dance. Excited?
Well, none of my family did dance before I did, and my mom actually wanted me to do soccer. And one of my family friends actually was a ballet teacher, saw me running in her house, and she wanted me to try dance, and I loved it.
And how old were you when you started?
I was 5 years old.
How old are you now?
I'm 12.
Nice, soften your elbows. Good.
She just loves and dancing and has a joy when she does it. She did other things as well, like BMX racing and swimming and gymnastics, but dance is what really stuck for her. I just love to go to festivals and watch her online, and it brings a joy to my heart.
I've been teaching Lilika for about 5 years.
Beautiful. Let's get that back leg going. Hold. Lovely.
I think what stands out to me most about Lilika is just how humble she is, and it really shines through her dancing, so it makes it very sincere, and that really draws the audience in.
What's one of your favorite performances of hers?
Oh, I would have to say that one of my favorite performances of hers is dancing Clara in the Nutcracker. I thought she was phenomenal in that.
I loved Clara when I was Clara in the Nutcracker last year, and also when I went to New York and also Seattle for a YGP.
Did you always know that you were Métis?
I did not. I found out in my early 30s. It was actually an uncle that passed away, and his partner decided to look into his heritage and his history, and she discovered that he had a Métis past.
What did it feel like to find that out?
It felt really good because it added an extra layer of culture to our family, and a lot of us really got into discovering what that meant.
Do you know much about your Métis family?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's from my dad's side, and he's a proud Métis from a land called Manitoba, I think. And they have a sash that there's different colors that mean different things.
What are some of the lessons you hope that you can pass on to your daughter and your other kids about their heritage?
To not forget about it, to carry it on to their kids as well, and to be proud about it, to share it with their friends and their teachers and then the family that they'll eventually have. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to instill in them.
Thank you so much. Am I allowed to open it right now?
So my daughter wanted to give her teacher a present that represented her Métis heritage, and she thought a sash would be a good way to show that.
This is gorgeous.
Can I explain what it is?
It's the Métis sash.
Oh, this is beautiful. I'm honored. This is beautiful. Where did you get it?
I got it from the Métis Center, I think it's called.
Oh, wow. Well, I am very lucky. This is absolutely gorgeous. Look at the colors in that.
Wow, what an inspiring young woman. Too bad we didn't get to see her teach Sophie some moves. I'm so glad we were able to visit her in Nanaimo and meet all these inspiring Métis Nation citizens from Vancouver Island, Region 1. Soon, MéTV will be visiting the Okanagan and Kootenay regions of BC to find stories just like these. If you want to nominate someone or yourself to be featured on this show, get in touch. Please note, you can also watch repeat airings of MéTV every Saturday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Joy TV, as well as 6 p.m. local time on Faith TV in Manitoba. Entire episodes are also available on our website. I'll see you next time. Until then, Mina Kawapa Mitten.